Welcome to Larry Reidy's America. Today we turn our attention to Calvin Coolidge, the 30th President of the United States. Known as Silent Cal, Coolidge was a man of few words but a steady character. He came to the presidency suddenly following the death of Warren G. Harding and guided the country through much of his roaring 20s, a time of booming prosperity, cultural change, and social upheaval. Coolidge's presidency is often remembered for its restraint. He believed the government should interfere little in the lives of citizens, and the prosperity flowed best when business thrived freely. His quiet dignity contrasted sharply with the noisy decade of jazz, flappers, prohibition, and speakeasies. Some historians see him as a passive president who failed to address looming challenges. Others admire him as a symbol of honesty and stability during a turbulent age. Today, we explore the life of Calvin Coolidge, the reserved Yankee whose stillness left a lasting imprint on America. John Calvin Coolidge Jr. was born on July 4th, 1872, in the tiny village of Plymouth Notch, Vermont. He remains the only U.S. president born on Independence Day, a fact that was often noted during his lifetime. His father, John Coolidge, was a farmer, storekeeper, and local public official. His mother, Victoria, died when Calvin was just 12. The Coolidge family valued thrift, honesty, and hard work, New England virtues that shaped Calvin's character. As a boy, Calvin was quiet, observant, and disciplined. He enjoyed books more than sports, chores more than play, and developed an early reputation for seriousness. The small-town values of Plymouth Notch never left him, even as he ascended to the nation's highest office. Coolidge attended Amherst College in Massachusetts, where he studied diligently and sharpened his debating skills. Though reserved, he earned respect for his sharp intellect and dry wit. After graduating in 1895, Coolidge studied law and opened a practice in Northampton, Massachusetts. He quickly became involved in local politics, serving on the city council as city solicitor and later as mayor. Coolidge's rise was steady rather than spectacular. He advanced by being reliable, honest, and careful. Constituents trusted him because he seemed immune to the temptation of ambition and corruption. He became known for his principle that government should serve people efficiently and modestly, not intrusively. By 1911, Coolidge had been elected to the Massachusetts Senate. His colleagues admired his quiet effectiveness, and he soon became Senate president. He then won the office of lieutenant governor, and in 1918 was elected governor of Massachusetts. Coolidge's philosophy was simple: financial responsibility, limited government, and respect for law and order. While other politicians sought attention, Coolidge kept a low profile and delivered results. This approach appealed to the voters who valued substance over flash. Coolidge's defining moment as governor came in 1919 during the Boston police strike. When police officers walked off the job demanding union recognition, law and order collapsed. Looting and rioting spread across the city. Boston's mayor called out the National Guard, but chaos continued. Coolidge stood firm, declaring, There is no right to strike against public safety by anybody, anywhere, anytime. This statement electrified the nation. Coolidge refused to reinstate striking officers, winning praise for his toughness. National newspapers hailed him as a defender of law and order. Practically overnight, Coolidge became a household name, positioning him for higher office. In the 1920 election, the Republican ticket paired Warren G. Harding with Calvin Coolidge. Harding provided charm and political connection. Coolidge provided moral ballast and reputation for integrity. The Harding-Coolidge ticket swept to victory in a landslide. As vice president, Coolidge mostly faded into the background, presiding quietly over the Senate. He rarely spoke, reinforcing his silent cow persona. Yet his patience and reserve served him well. When the scandal and corruption began to cloud Harding's presidency, Coolidge remained untouched, seen as a man above reproach. On August 1923, Harding died unexpectedly in San Francisco. Coolidge, vacationing at his family home in Vermont, was awakened in the night with the news. By the light of kerosene lamp, his father, a local notary public, administered the presidential oath in the parlor. Coolidge entered office quietly but firmly. His first priority was to restore confidence in the government after the scandals of Harding's administration. He promised honesty, stability, and a return to order. His style was cautious but steady, and it reassured a shaken public. The 1920s economy boomed under Coolidge. Wages rose, unemployment fell, and new technology, automobiles, radios, household appliances, transformed daily life. Coolidge believed the government role was to create the condition for business to prosper, not to interfere. He slashed taxes, reduced federal spending, and supported pro-business policies. He once remarked, "The business of America is business." His critics claimed that he favored the wealthy and overlooked farmers and workers struggling on the margins. But Coolidge insisted that prosperity for business meant prosperity for all. Personally, Coolidge embodied restraint. He spoke little in public, often letting silence carry weight. Journalists joked that he could be silent in 5 languages, yet his brevity gave him an air of honesty. When Coolidge did speak, people believed him. The 1920s were not only about prosperity, but also about cultural conflict. Prohibition was in full effect, fueling crime and the rise of speakeasies. Jazz, flappers, and Hollywood reshaped American culture. At the same time, the Ku Klux Klan rose again, spreading intolerance. Coolidge largely stayed above the fray. He enforced prohibition laws, but without zeal. On race, he gave speeches defending Black Americans' rights, but did little in policy. He signed the Immigration Act of 1924, which sharply restricted immigration from Southern and Eastern Europe and barred most Asian, a law reflecting the era's prejudices. Coolidge was cautious, avoiding bold stands on divisive issues. His presidency mirrored his personality, steady, restrained, and risk-averse. In 1927, Coolidge was popular and could have easily won re-election in 1928. Yet, he stunned the nation by announcing, I do not choose to run for president in 1928. Coolidge believed 2 terms were enough, and privately he felt weary and disinterested in another campaign. His wife, Grace, supported his decision. He retired quietly to Northampton, Massachusetts, where he lived modestly and wrote his memoirs. He remained a respected elder statesman, but he had no desire to re-enter politics. Calvin Coolidge died suddenly on January 5th, 1933, at the age of 60. The nation mourned the loss of a man who had symbolized dignity and restraint. Coolidge's reputation had fluctuated over time. For decades, he was dismissed as a do-nothing president. Later, conservatives praised his fiscal restraint and honesty. What is undeniable is that Coolidge embodied the values of his era: thrift, order, and business-first policies. In a noisy age, his silence spoke volumes. Well, let's look at the flaws and his strengths, and then we'll grade him. Flaws: he's too passive in addressing social issues like racism, inequality, and prohibition. Overly dependent on laissez-faire economics, leaving farmers and workers behind. Failure to anticipate economic weakness that contributed to the Great Depression. Restored public trust after the Harding scandals. That's a nice strength. Presided over booming prosperity in the 1920s. Honest, frugal, and dignified. A president above corruption. His restraint contrasted with the excess of his time. Well, competent, honest, effective at maintaining prosperity, but too passive to rank among the great. I think a B- is adequate for him. As a man, well, he lived with integrity, humility, and restraint, offering an example of dignity in public service. A-, yeah, I think A-. B+, A-. Okay. And that, my friends, is the story of Calvin Coolidge, the quiet Yankee who rose from a Vermont firm to the White House, who calmed the nation rocked by scandal, and who presided over one of the most prosperous decades in American history. Coolidge reminds us that leadership can be quiet, that sometimes stability and honesty matter more than fiery speeches or sweeping reform. He was not a man of great visions, but he gave America what they wanted and needed most in the 1920s: confidence and calm. In his silence, Calvin Coolidge spoke volumes about the value of integrity, humility, and restraint. His legacy endures as a reminder that character is as important as charisma, and sometimes the quietest leaders leave the most lasting impression. This has been Larry Reidy's America. Thank you for joining me as we explore the life of Calvin Coolidge, the president of silence, dignity, and steady hands. Thanks for listening. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. And I will talk to you on the next podcast.